From 2011 to roughly 2017, the Saskatchewan Roughriders proved that you can rebuild, be competitive, and be absolutely terrible with the snap of the fingers. Now, this isn't like Thanos where it was just automatic. It took some time, but they proved that it could be quicker than your normal NHL or Major League Baseball, even NFL rebuild. It can be really done pretty quickly, and we can prove it in the last couple of years with free agency, one-year contracts, and roster turnover. But the Saskatchewan Roughriders did things back in the old days, I guess, 10 years ago, that might have surprised you. But there's always just that one move that goes under the radar, not only at the time, but it grows throughout the next couple of years, and it gives you not necessarily building blocks, but the ability to create a huge roster. Well, I guess all rosters are huge, really, but it gives you ability to create a roster that can remain competitive. Now, you might have a bad year, 2015 was proof positive of that, but you can also rebuild after that. Well, they didn't rebuild, they were terrible in 2016, but they were okay after that. They really were, despite only winning 2 playoff games in 5 years. Oh. Saskatchewan Roughriders made one move, and that was in 2013, and lo and behold, they won the Grey Cup in 2013 at home. And sure enough, we are in 2022 and the Saskatchewan Roughriders are hosting the Grey Cup. Is there one move that they can make this year? Well, let's review the move that was done in 2013.
Down by 15 for Darnold. He's going to keep it.
This is very time sensitive because, we're dealing with retirements. Michael Riley, and the list goes on and on, but there is one particular player that called his retirement about a couple of weeks ago, and that was Matthew ODonnell. Now, Matthew ODonnell holds a distinction of playing his entire career in one city. But that's not the team who drafted him. Yes, we can say that, yes, technically he only played for the Edmonton Elks in the CFL, and yes, he did go down south during that tenure to the NFL to play for the Cincinnati Bengals. But in the CFL terms, he only played for the Edmonton Elks. But Edmonton did not draft him, and this is quite interesting. In 2013, after 2 years after drafting Matthew ODonnell in 2011, they decided to make the trade. Now, there's 2 ways that you could look at this. You could see Matthew ODonnell wanting to be versatile because he wanted to become a basketball player in the NBA. He even wanted to try out for the Toronto Raptors. There is even proof that he wanted to try out, obviously, down south in the NFL and a couple of Major League Baseball teams. Now, I'm not too sure if that's completely accurate, but why not, right? You want to play basketball, you want to play football, hey, why not play baseball? I believe there's even a couple of hockey teams that could have used a guy with his size, but I digress. And then there's a second way to look at it, that Matthew ODonnell wanted to do everything but play in Saskatchewan. So Marty Lawrence might actually like that option. Anyway, a trade was made. And in 2013, it started this whole domino effect that still exists in 2022. The initial trade was the Edmonton Elks acquiring Matt ODonnell, a 2013 31st overall draft pick. In exchange, the Saskatchewan Roughriders acquired Greg Carr and a 39th overall pick in 2013. Now, very different trade tree because we've talked about a couple of these aspects in previous videos. And it's more interesting on the Edmonton side of things, although Matt ODonnell retiring is kind of what really kind of started this video. So let's start with the players involved before we go on to the draft picks, shall we? Matthew ODonnell, He retired as an Edmonton Elk. The only team he played for was down south in the NFL, and because he wasn't traded, this is really one and done. We don't really need to talk further about it, but let's honor the fact that, like I said, Matthew O'Donnell holds a distinction of only playing for one team in his whole CFL career, and that should be respected. Greg Carr, on the other hand, played for a lot of teams, and this was the only time he was traded. Greg Carr started his career as Winnipeg Blue Bombers, decided to test out free agency, and he signed with the Edmonton Elks, and they weren't that good in 2012, and he decided, hey, I want to play elsewhere, and they honored him part of this trade that sent Matthew O'Donnell to the Edmonton Elks. Saskatchewan didn't actually have his rights for that long. He was cut prior to the 2013 season, and he played for Calgary, and that didn't go well to me either. Greg Carr hasn't been seen since then, and what could have been for Greg Carr, yeah, you could argue that Greg Carr probably would have had a longer career in the CFL had he actually stayed in Winnipeg. Probably could have, because Winnipeg didn't really have that much of an offense. Because Greg Carr wasn't traded after this, that's done. The players, the actual active assets in this trade are done. Let's take a look at what Saskatchewan gave to Edmonton as far as a draft pick. I should there should be context, because Saskatchewan gave a lot of draft picks during this trade tree to Edmonton, but the primary one I'm talking about. The 2013 31st overall pick, the Edmonton Elks chose Jorgen Huth. Now we're probably, thinking back, hey, I've heard that name, and you'd be correct, because this name has come up a lot in previous trade trees. And sure enough, this should tell you that, hey, there are trades that create trades that create trade trees, and this is proof of it. Jorgen Huth has been a part of a lot of trade trees, and not necessarily because of who he is, he's just been a part of it. Jorgen Huth was packaged with a third-round pick in 2016 in exchange for receiver Corey Watson and a 2016 ninth overall pick. Now, Corey Watson was very good in Edmonton for a couple of years. Because he wasn't traded, he signed as a free agent with the BC Lions. That part of the branch is done. But the ninth overall pick, we've done with that one. The Edmonton Elks sent the ninth overall pick and the rights to defensive back Selvish Capers to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in exchange for offensive lineman Chris Graves. Now this is interesting because this trade was 2016. So at the end of Edmonton's side, they now have Matthew O'Donnell and now Chris Graves. Now Graves didn't last that long. He was cut after this 2016 season. So did Edmonton really come up ahead in this trade? Well, they did win a Grey Cup throughout all this deal, and Matthew O'Donnell just retired after the 2021 season. I'd argue they did pretty well. The team maybe not so much in 2021, but the organization, the franchise, and the player, they came out ahead. Well, Saskatchewan side of things gets kind of interesting, and we're going to play a little domino game, shall we? Now, the 39th and the 40th overall pick in 2013 were used by Saskatchewan. Let's keep this in mind. They were used by Saskatchewan, just not now. The 39th and 40th overall pick was sent to the Edmonton Elks. See, I told you, it wasn't the first draft pick being sent to Edmonton by Saskatchewan. They were sent to the Edmonton Elks in exchange for punter Brodie McKnight and the 49th overall pick in 2013. The 49th overall pick was used to select Thomas Spolatini, who got cut prior to the 2013 season, so we're not really going to talk about him at all. Although Brodie McKnight didn't last that long in Saskatchewan, was cut just prior to the 2013 season, and signed on with the Hamilton Tiger and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers before calling it a career in the CFL. But could have been for Mr. Brodie McKnight. In fairness, the trade tree ends here. It really does. There's no further trades from here. Brodie McKnight does not get traded. Thomas Spolatini does not get traded. But I like the domino effect, and it's a pretty cool domino effect. You see those 39th and 40th overall picks? Well, those picks were sent to the Toronto Argonauts along with another 5th round pick, the 44th overall pick, for Jermaine Reed. Now, Jermaine Reed doesn't get traded to Saskatchewan, so how does this happen? Well, the Saskatchewan Roughriders take their 3rd round pick in 2013 and send it to the Toronto Argonauts for that 39th, 40th and 44th overall pick in 2013. Who do they get? Well, with the 39th overall pick, Alex Anthony. With the 40th overall pick, Levi Steinauer. And with the 44th overall pick, Spencer Moore. Listen, the trade tree ends very anticlimactic, but the domino effect is very cool. For if you're a Saskatchewan Roughriders fan, now you only have Jorgen who's remaining from this initial trade, and it's really not this side of it, so it doesn't really count, but it's still a cool idea. It's a pretty big deal. And while these might not be prominent starters in the CFL, much less with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, they are very reliable, versatile depth pieces that allows you to build and create stars or starters on your own roster. So, did this move help Edmonton? You could argue maybe not. This move helped Saskatchewan more so. Did they get anything out of Greg Carr? No. Did they get anything for trading Matthew O'Donnell? You could argue that, but this allowed the Saskatchewan Roughriders ample opportunity to create depth pieces that gave them a Grey Cup run, and had they not had an injured quarterback, probably another one in 2014. Now they kind of stepped back in 2015 and 2016, but some of those pieces were still with them, as they are the Saskatchewan Roughriders that we know today. If you like this video and if you have any thoughts about it, leave a comment below. If you have any future trade tree suggestions, hit them up on Twitter at Rouge Radio, and of course myself at Rouge Dalts. Of course, this video is powered by the Canadian Football Podcast Network at CF Pod Network on Twitter.